Hmm. Okay, sorry for the technology problem. So he's going to speak on cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency, you must have all heard of things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there are several other names that I think Mr. Garg might mention. Um, before we begin, I would just like to gratefully acknowledge the help that we receive in organizing these lectures from Geeta Mittal Foundation, which is headed by Shri Indrajit Khanna, our esteemed colleague and former Chief Secretary. And he is very ably supported by Mr. Manish Vashisht, who provides us technical support for this purpose and all other support. Let me now formally introduce Mr. Garg to this audience who knows him very well, but nevertheless, this is our convention and we must highlight some of his achievements. I have to do this today. I have to do this today because unfortunately our president of the association, Shri Arun Kumar, is not too well. He had a throat problem and he directed me to do this. So I will do the honors. As you know, Mr. Subhash Garg is an IAS officer of Rajasthan Cadre, joined it in 1983. He has had a very brilliant educational career. He did his commerce graduation, law graduation, and also he's professionally qualified in cost accountancy, management accountancy, and also he's a CS, professionally qualified CS. He has spent, apart from many positions at a relatively junior level, he has spent many years in the field of finance. He was Secretary Expenditure, Secretary Budget at the state government level. He finally became Principal Secretary Finance in Government of Rajasthan. He has had several stints in the Union Finance Ministry and was Joint Secretary there. Thereafter, he was Economic Affairs Secretary and finally Finance Secretary. In that capacity, he was also, in fact, earlier he was the Executive Director in the World Bank, appointed by Government of India. And he spent 3 years there. He also became Power Secretary before he finally retired. What I find most remarkable about him is the fact that once we retire, we all fade away into anonymity. But after his retirement, Subhashji has started another career, and that is as a policy advisor, as a contributor to various newspapers, websites dealing with finance and policy issues. He contributes op-eds to moneycontrol.com and the Quint, and also to newspapers. He's often a guest in various debates in television shows on finance policy issues. He also did some consultancy, wrote a plan for industrial development and economic development of Uzbekistan. He also represented India in various international financial institutions like Asian Development Bank and World Bank. He was also a director in the Central Board of Reserve Bank of India. He was on the board of LIC and SEBI. And now, of course, he's devoting his time to pursuing his intellectual pursuits in the area of policy. Recently, he's come out with a notable book called $10 trillion Dream, the State of Indian Economy and Policy Reform Agenda, which has been published by Penguin. In fact, Penguin invited him to write this book, and it's been published and very well received. Before this, he was also an advisor to the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. So that is his career. I can't cover all because of shortage of time, but we are honored to have him today, and he will be discussing his own perspectives on cryptocurrency, whether it's a fraud or it has a promise in the future. Over to you, Subhash.
Thank you very much. In fact, this is the great occasion to come back to the Cadre and to speak, to interact with the seniors in age, seniors in service career and all, on a subject which is, I think, now required lots of interest amongst everyone, not only the youngsters who are so much after it, but also I think senior citizens and all, because it concerns what is basic to our economy in the society as we run and live in. That is the basic thing, is the money. Money makes everything go. Every transaction in the economy, whether you buy your food or any service, you create asset, etc., is all taken through the use of money. So money is central to the economy, even in society, whether you gift it or you raise your children or anyone, so you require financial resources, money for that purpose. So today, when I speak about the cryptocurrencies, I would begin with money, because cryptocurrencies have sort of come out in the world in the last couple of years, basically as a money substitute, the substitute of a central bank currency, which we know. So rupee notes, which we keep in our pockets, or the coins earlier. So these are the way the money was in before us and was used. Now we have this phenomenon called cryptocurrencies, which has come and is seeking to substitute, as I said. So let me just dwell a little bit on what money. I don't have to. I think everyone has seen, has used it, worked it, and every day use it. But to make a small point, that money essentially, in the context of where we are today, is in two basic forms. One is what we know as cash or currency, the coins or the notes which we keep with us for doing various kind of transactions. And the other money is what is in my bank accounts. So deposits in the bank accounts today work as money, because you can make any transactions using literally the money in your bank account by using digital wallets or internet payments or credit cards or many other ways in which that money electronically can be used in your account to make payments. The money was primarily currency until, let us say, about 50, 60 years back. Everyone was transacting in hard currency. But once the bank account deposits became sort of digital, so to say, and the bank accounts were joined in single networks like UPI, as we know today. So UPI is virtually work on the principle that all the bank accounts in the country, in any bank you have, are digitally joined into one single digital bank account. So, and it makes it easier by use of that application for transferring money from one account to another account and make payments. And in that sense, the deposits are becoming digital. So we have two basic ways of doing or using money today. Either use the cash or currency, or use the deposits in a bank account. So currency today still is physical, but the deposit or the other money in your bank account is quite digital. And more transactions today are taking place in the digital form, and it has substituted the other physical means of transfer using the bank account, like checks and all, checks, drafts, which we used to know, money orders, which we used to know many years as the prominent ways of doing things, are slowly getting virtually phased out. Money, as you know, has evolved over the years to meet the needs of the society of the time or the economy of the time. In olden times, 100 years back or so, coin, whether silver coin or the gold coin, was the primary means of using money. But there were several limitations with it. If you want to make larger payment, you have to carry very weighty coins. If you want to make payment far away or away from your home or something, you have to send that physically, etc. And there were so many risks. And there were also bigger problems, like the money supply was limited to the extent of that metal availability, etc. And the economies were not growing, the trade, production, etc., were also not growing. And therefore, the paper currency substitute came, that all right, here is a paper note, which is backed by the sovereign gold, earlier in the when it first came as the gold substitute, later on by the sovereign guarantee that this 100 rupees note is equivalent to 100 rupees of the earlier times, like let us say 100 silver coins of rupee 1. And slowly, the paper currency took over, and the metallic currency became much smaller. This relieved those two constraints of making transactions at a distance and making bulkier transactions. It was quite a facilitative, and it allowed the transactions to take place. But there were some limitations which remained attached to that. One of the biggest limitations attached to that was that the currency, paper currency, was basically a national kind of concept, national kind of construction, national kind of currency. So Indian rupee you can use in India, dollars you can use elsewhere. There are 190 kind of currencies or notes in the world today. And that facilitates the transactions in the country to some extent or to large extent, but it comes as a major constraint whenever you have to do international transactions. You get your rupee converted into dollars, a pound or something, and unless that happens, the transactions can't take place. The banking system evolved, and banking system created some systems to make those transactions happen. So today, if you want to transfer money from America to India or Middle East to India, there are banks which will take your money over there, create a swift transfer system, messaging system, which will come here and give you the rupee. In between, the banks will charge their commissions and transactions fees, etc. So today, international transactions can take place, but that come at a large cost. The difference between what you get in terms of dollars when you want to buy and when you get you to pay, when you pay, you want to have equal amount of rupee. That is the frictional cost which the banks and others, and it takes time. So maybe 24 hours or something is what is required as a minimum, even if you want to transfer money from America or which are connected. If you go to other places, it might take much more. So that limitation remains today of the system of currency, and even when it has become partly and largely digital. The other major limitation is which when our economy is growing digital, a lot of services today are produced digitally. We enjoy them digitally, whether we watch movies or whether we do e-commerce transactions or whether we deliver many kind of services, we are doing it digitally today. And that digital economy is now that requires instant payment. For other transactions also we require instant payment. If I want to make some transactions to buy something on e-commerce, as I said, the payment has to be made instantly. That instant payment cannot be made by using the physical money, whether it's note or coin. And therefore, to take care of these two big limitations, that you can't transfer internationally outside your monetary zone, and the instantaneousness of the transaction is what is required today. That gave rise to the need for having an international currency, and that currency which can be used instantly. That is what was behind when the Bitcoin came up as the first currency in the world sometime in 2008 and 2009. The design was technical, that all right, we'll create a system, because you have to bypass, you have to take out the central banks from the system, because if central banks are the issuers of the currency, then it has to get converted from one currency to another, and you have to using the banking channels by making the transfers in the way I described. But if you want to truly create an international currency, which anyone, anywhere in the world can own and can use it for transacting, that currency has to be number one, digital, and number two, created digitally and worked in a manner where the transfers can take place without involvement of the central banks and the other banking networks. That is what led to creation of, as I said, of the first cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin works using what we know now as decentralized database technologies or decentralized ledger. I won't go into the technology of it, but just to make it a little clearer, today we have lots of our assets, including money, in what we describe as centralized database system. So your bank account is a centralized database of the accounts which the banks maintain. Your investment in, let us say, shares today in the depository called CDCL or NSDL is NSDL has created a centralized database of all the shares and assets, which you and me own partly to the extent of what we have a beneficial interest there. But all of these assets today are held by that central agency, which allows you and me to do transactions whenever we want. So if you sell a share on a particular day on an exchange, what you're doing is that your share, which is there in the depository account with the NSDL, gets transferred on your instructions to somebody else's account, which is also held in the NSDL. So all accounts are held by the central depository. Likewise, whenever we make payment through the banks, the bank account of yours and mine are all held by the banking system. And I reach out to my bank account and say that, all right, this much money is to be transferred to this person. And that central agency, whether it's the NPCI in case of the UPI, or bank accounts in case of whether you transfer through IIPS and other mode of transfer, RTGS and others. Those money in your account in one central bank or one bank account is transferred from one to another account using. So this is a classical developed centralized database technology. Whereas Bitcoin and other currencies, so there are many currencies which have come up now. There are about more than 1,000 of cryptocurrencies which are working in the world today. Bitcoin happens to be the largest. It has about 40% of the total share. There are many others, Ether and others, which we can discuss if there is an interest later on. But these currencies have been created on what is known as decentralized database system. So there is no central bank, there is no NSDL, there is no CSDL. This system works on the nodes of machines. So your laptop or my laptop, which if it has enough capacity to deal with that kind, can become a node. So there are about 10,000 nodes of computers which are joined in a way in that Bitcoin network. And whenever transactions take place, they unlike in case of UPI, where NPCI verifies that there is a money in your account and you're transferring to somebody else and executes the transactions digitally, here these 10,000 nodes find the solutions and also solve a problem, and then the consensus arrives at that yes, all these transactions are taken and they are joined into what is known as the new block. So the chain of blocks which contains all the transactions is the blockchain technology, and all of these are held, all these accounts are held in a way on all the 10,000 networks. So you can't in a way misuse it. You are not in a position of a central authority to do any transactions, and you are not at one place and therefore cannot be hacked in that kind of thing. So these are the advantages of this technology. But from our perspective of money and transactions, what it does is that it allows the transactions to take place from anywhere to anywhere. If my son is sitting in London and he wants to make transfer to me, and if both of us have a Bitcoin wallet, so the money can come here instantaneously in my account, and I can convert that into, that's the system. Or I can use that Bitcoin to make payments for whatever services people are prepared to accept the payment. So that is the new architecture, the new innovation, the new money. And I don't think as an innovation, as an answer to the two big problems, there are other issues as well, but the two big problems of making global transactions happen and making instantaneous transaction happen. And also another thing which I mentioned as earlier, like whenever we transfer in the traditional system, there is leakage in the form of bank commissions and exchange charges, etc. Here there is one single price, one single global price. The Bitcoin in a way trades at one single price globally, though there are some kind of problems which, when people try to make it national currency and national wallets, etc. But if on an exchange which is globally traded, there is one single price you can use. So these are the big advantages which I think was intended to be brought, and they brought in. What happened? Initially, this was used as a developing system for making payments. What is the main purpose of the money is. But later on, it got a very high degree of fancy of people. People saw that it's not a currency alone, but it's a valuable asset. And there was an architectural issue that Bitcoin guys said the total number of Bitcoins would be 21 million ever issued. When the 21st million Bitcoin gets issued, there would not be any possibility of any further Bitcoin. So there was some scarcity value attached, and slowly it got a massive kind of leg up. And the fascination, especially in the youngsters, who in a way are living in a virtual world and a global world. Many of them operate not only within the national boundaries, etc., and they operate on a kind of global virtual scale. And if you see the trajectory of the Bitcoin development, in 2009, when this was initiated, the history of Bitcoin, which has been documented now, tells that in 2009, a guy used 10,000 Bitcoins to buy 2 pieces of pizza. That 2 pieces of pizza, which might cost you $20, today one single Bitcoin cost you about $22,000. Now $22,000 multiplied by 10,000 being used for buying 2 pizza was the value of Bitcoin at that point of time. But from there, now we have come to a stage until last year, sometime in September last year, when the cryptocurrencies reached out at their maximum value, the global market capitalization of the cryptocurrencies was something close to $2.7 trillion. India's total GDP is about $3 trillion. So it's just to give you a sense of the kind of market capitalization it had reached, and the total stock market capitalization of India is also around that level of about $2.5, $2.6 trillion. That was the massive frenzy which had led to Bitcoin crossing at about $70,000 or $69,000 and reaching to this gargantuan scale of valuation. However, there is very little of the understanding about where the value comes from for any of these cryptocurrencies. What is the intrinsic value of a Bitcoin or a Ether or Solana or whatever? How do you find that what is the value of the Bitcoin? Any artificial situation can raise the prices to anything, right? People's rationality just receives a back seat, or it gets into the sleep mode, and people try to catch that today it is at 20,000, tomorrow it will be 25,000, so let me buy at 20. And so many people start buying, the prices start going up on themselves. And we have very crazy situations to develop. I'll just give you 3 comparative situations to make a little sense of the kind of artificial valuation this might have got into. So if you own some shares, you would know that the market capitalization of any share, let us say Tata Steel or TCS or whatever, is based on what it is per share profit. And per share profit, if you multiply by the price which is at the market, you get the market capitalization. And there is a certain determined kind of relationship between the per share profit and the price. That is what we call PE ratio, price earning ratio. So the price is a multiple of the profit. So the more profit per share you have, the price would be higher given a certain kind of multiple. So the NSE today, let us say, has about 26 multiple to the EPS. So earning per share multiplied by 26 gives you the price of NSE. But some share, let us say TCS, might be selling at 30 times the EPS because people expect that this company might be earning much more and much higher profits in the times to come. So you have a valuation of the real economy stocks, which is linked to the profitability, current profitability, as well as the future potential profitability thereof. That is how you judge. But if you remember, last year, quite a few of the startups, so to say, went for listing. The companies like Paytm, Nykaa, Zomato, and a few others, they also went for listing last year. And when they were going for listing, they had no profits. So the conventional way to value a company which earns no profit was a hard thing for anyone to believe. And our investment bankers and others kind of people designed a new metric. That new metric was that because these companies are basically based on how much of the market it can capture, which is reflected in the sales. So let us take the multiple of sales as the valuation, and the profits can come in future. Don't worry about profits now. This is a very unrealistic way to value, but there was some way to do it. That higher the sales turnover of a company, higher would be the market capitalization of that. Though the sales which is earning losses cannot actually be profitable in the future, and therefore it was on a very shaky foundation. As a result, what you saw, Paytm, which was sold at about 2,150 rupees per share or so, today is selling at less than 700 rupees. Because fundamental valuation, which has to be based on the profitability, was just not there, and as a result is what we see. Now we come to the creations like Bitcoins and Ether, etc. Here we don't have either a turnover or profitability. In fact, the basic technical design of it is that it does not generate any kind of profit for the network. It also does not generate any kind of turnover. What on platforms like Ether, individuals and others can create applications, can also provide services which may generate some profit for the service provider. But for the platform, which is akin to, let us say, any company, that does not have anything. Everything gets captured in the value of that coin or the cryptocurrency which it has issued. Now, we don't know anything about the turnover. We don't know anything about the profitability. And yet there is a frenzy for acquiring that asset. And that is surely likely to lead to a situation where at some point of time, the music will stop and the game will fall, and people will be sort of scampering for collecting the losses. That's what keeps on happening from time to time. So when Bitcoin was at $70,000 per Bitcoin, the music stopped in a way. People got a little scared that how much will it go up and will not go up. So why not I book my profit by selling? And the moment when more people started selling, the Bitcoin started plummeting. And this is what has happened. So even today, we don't have any sort of rational explanation to determine the actual valuation of the cryptocurrencies which we have in market. And until that clarity emerges, there is very difficult situation for anyone to, whether it's investor, whether it's government, whether it's the central bank or anyone, to sort of take a call on a currency like this. And therefore, what you find is the very different kind of response which has come globally to the cryptocurrencies. Many countries have banned it. There was also a talk in India of banning it. The bill which we proposed in 2019 also talked about banning the cryptocurrencies in the country, though it also talked about the digital currency to be issued by the central bank. that brings me to the next part of my discussion today, that if we know that the world economy is globalizing, world society is globalizing and digitalizing, and the world society and economy is becoming increasingly digital. We need a digital currency to do the transactions with facility in a global environment where the national boundaries don't matter that much any longer for lots of people. There is a need for a digital global currency for transactions to take place. Now, if you are not comfortable, and rightly so, for a privately created global digital currency like Bitcoin, then you need to come up with your own solution for that. That is where the big debate today internationally is happening. A lot of people, a lot of countries are experimenting to create their own digital currency. I'm sure you must have heard China is a little ahead of it. They have created digital yuan. And let me just explain what is digital currency vis-a-vis the digital payments, which we discussed a little bit. So to go back to that money is in two forms today. One is the hard cash or currency which we have, and the other one is your account money, which is quite digital today. So the account money is digital. That's not a problem. If we can sort out the problem of conversion of exchange rates and others, just imagine that like UPI has done for the national one single currency market, instantaneous payments today. Suppose there is a global UPI with all the global banks joining together into one single digital bank, and we evolve a system of instantaneous conversion of one currency into another. Then it's possible to make global payments also instantaneously as the UPI does it for the country. But that requires two massive cooperation. Number one, you build a global UPI or NPCI of all the banks in the world, bringing all the accounts. And second, that there is a system, and the national governments and the central banks agree that this is the way their instantaneous conversion of exchange rate will take place. By the way, as you see today, Google publishes a single conversion rate every second. So if you go on your mobile phone and ask for what is the conversion rate for a rupee to dollar today, you will find it instantaneously in the Google, because they, based on the transactions which they are able to capture, are able to do one single. It's possible to design the system where all the banks can also agree on the instant conversion of one currency into another. Now, if that can happen, it's possible to evolve a global digital currency. It's also possible to evolve a national digital currency, which is good enough for 95% of the people in most of the countries. They would be doing only transactions digitally inside their countries. And the rest of the ones can do by using the global digital currency. Now, whenever we talk about the digital currency, so you and me have our bank account, which is virtually digital, as I said. On the app, you open the bank account and then transfer money. Today, instantaneously, it can happen. When we talk of the currency being digital, that would require, just visualize that in your wallet or batwa, you keep some notes all the time for making transactions. Now that wallet is physical. Just substitute that physical wallet with a digital wallet on your phone or on your computer. That there is a batwa all the same, there is a wallet all the same, but it doesn't have physical notes. It has only digital notes or currency. that would make the currency, the physical currency, get substituted by the digital currency. The difference again from the national point of view or the sovereign point of view is that the currency is always issued by either the sovereign or the central bank on its behalf. So rupee currency notes are all issued by the Central Bank of India, the Reserve Bank today. And all of that, all of us keep some of those notes. These notes are not issued by any banks, whereas our deposit accounts are held by banks. So a very simple way to visualizing this is that the digital wallet would have digital notes issued by the Reserve Bank of India, whereas digital money or the deposits is what you have digitally in your bank accounts with the bank. So that is the only difference. If that comes, like you today take out a 50 rupees note or a 100 rupees note to buy something from the vendor, the sabji wala who comes, it's possible to visualize that the sabji wala also has a digital wallet, and I have a digital wallet. And instead of taking out that 100 rupees note and making payment, I just open my digital wallet and transfer money to him instantaneously. And this can happen today, the technology allows. So that would be the stage when you have the digital currency also coming in addition to digital account money in the bank accounts as we speak. So now the global experiments are taking place. As I mentioned, the Chinese yuan now has about 10% of the payments being made in China using the digital yuan. And this is likely to go further and further in times to come. And like paper notes substituted the sovereigns or the metallic money, and virtually in India today, 99.9% of the transactions take place using the paper money, and only 0.01% transactions take place using and I'm talking in terms of value, not in terms of volume of transaction. Volume of transaction being small is still much higher for the physical coins, more than 0.1%. So that is the way the transition will take place from the paper money to the digital money. It is not going to be substituted in a day or two, like the metallic coins have not been substituted fully even in 100 years. We had our first paper note in 1862, and even today, after 150 years, the coins still work. Likewise, when the digital money or digital currency start operating, the paper currency will continue to operate for many, many years. You must have heard in the last budget, the government announced that the Reserve Bank will issue the digital rupee, and certain changes have been made in the Reserve Bank of India Act to make digital rupee equivalent to the physical rupee or the bank note as the Reserve Bank has been issuing. My assessment is that the Reserve Bank is not ready, unlike Chinese where they have issued the digital yuan. But sooner or later, maybe this year, maybe next year, this is inevitable. This digital rupee will also come in. Americans are also very seriously considering to come up with the electronic dollar. And as you know, dollar is the literal global currency. If they come up with the digital dollar, they are likely to then capture the global digital money market as well. But let us see that happens, and whoever gets into this mode more and more quickly and sophisticatedly, it's likely to happen. So this is the course of event which will certainly happen. How soon, how much, how intensely will depend upon different countries and all. Let me come to last two aspects of my sort of talk today. One is the asset aspect and the other one is the fraud aspect. The asset, the cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin acquired more of a character of asset, which we discussed, because people started seeing value in itself rather than as a mode of transaction or mode of payment. They started seeing value, and that is what came up to make its price rise. And a lot of exchanges established all over. In India also 14, 15 exchanges were established where you can buy and sell or keep the Bitcoin and other digital cryptocurrencies with you. This based on the fundamental problem of the valuation issue is creating a very massive problem. There is a lot of uncertainty always running in it, and therefore there is so much of variation in the prices of these kind of thing, and the asset case has also somewhat become weaker over the last few months and has become more and more uncertain. These cryptocurrencies, as I said, were very convenient to make transfers and payments globally by use of that technology. You just need to open an account with a digital account. You get two kind of keys. Remember Swiss banks, the code used to be there. That code used to open up the bank for you. You can do transactions thereafter. Here also there is a private key. That private key is like Swiss bank code, which only you know. And by using that code, you can do the transactions on that. Now this can facilitate a lot of people, but it can also facilitate terrorists and the money launderers and others to use this. If someone wants to transfer money from, let us say, Pakistan, for example, to someone in India, it's possible to sort of sell or transfer that Bitcoin, which someone in the Pakistan is holding, to someone in India, and that guy can then convert that into money and then use it for whatever nefarious purposes. So it is easier to do money transfers, money laundering, and this kind of transactions using this. Though it's not true that it remains shrouded in mystery, it cannot be traced. The one good feature about this blockchain cryptography technology is that everything, whatever is done, gets recorded, and it's immutable. It cannot be erased by any technological means. And therefore, if you have technological way to reach out, I see some noise coming. I'm just finishing in 5 minutes, and then we can have the
interaction. No, please mute. I think there is some somebody's mic is on. Please mute yourself. Yeah.
So yes. that is the way the misuse of the system, the cryptocurrencies and all can take place. But now the law enforcement agencies have also developed systems to sort of track this. Some frauds took place in America and all. They were traced and found out. Every system is susceptible to fraud and misuse. Like even bank accounts have been hacked here. You see every time so much of false links being sent, Nigerians and others who are trying to always cheat you with your bank account money. Like in this system, in any other system also, there can be risks and problems and leakages, but those can also be dealt with. You can't throw the baby with the bathwater. The digital currency is the currency of future. It is needed. And the private guys have come up. They have shown the way. By the way, the innovation always comes from the private side. Even the bank notes, which we know today as a very secured, reliable means of doing transactions, were first issued by the private banks. For many, many years, the central governments and the central banks did not issue it. They adopted it later on. Likewise, I think learning from this innovation which has come up from there, if we can as a nation or as a global community develop ways to come up with the digital currency, and then we can perhaps deal with the future requirement of the global digital community as we are developing into. And this innovation, to my mind, will lead to a lot of path-breaking developments, and the world would be a better off place as we go along. Thank you very much. I stop and would love to now have the interaction. Please feel free to comment, say anything, whatever you feel like. And in case you have questions, please do feel free to raise them, and I'll try to attempt answer.
Kindly, the floor is now open for any questions or comments. Please.
Mr. Manavat has raised the hand.
No, I have put in a few questions. I think it was getting directed only to Manish, so I don't know whether.
I suggest you speak them.
Okay. I'll do it very briefly. You have answered this question partly. I said, who controls the price of a cryptocurrency? You have tried to answer that. So probably there is no mechanism by which the price of the cryptocurrency could be known or could be decided. So that is one thing I thought I will. Can the cryptocurrency be converted for the physical currency at any point and by anybody? So that is conversion. Is it possible? And third question was, you were mentioned about digital payments and digital systems as a thing of the future. With so much of digital payment happening in our own country, why did the RBI have to print a lot of much more currency than what it was in circulation at the time of demonetization? These are a few. I have posted a few more, but I think I can discuss about it whenever we happen to talk to you separately. But this is an area of interest, and thanks a lot for clarifying a number of things which are, because nothing is known to the people, common man at all, whether about the cryptocurrency, how it functions, how it works. So maybe you can try to we can maybe answer these things, and then the queries are many more, but these are basic ones which come to my mind initially.
Thank you, Vanavatji. I'll attempt the answer to these two, and then we'll interact offline for discussing whatever comments and the issues you have. So the conversion of the cryptocurrencies into physical currencies, there is no single model in the world, right? Some countries, this is permitted. For example, in the United States, you can join in, you can buy Bitcoin, or you can get out by selling or something. In India, you can enter, but exit is more difficult, but it's possible. Some countries like China, etc., they have banned cryptocurrencies, so you can't do that. There is a class of cryptocurrencies which I should have discussed, but time didn't permit, what we call stable coins. These stable coins are which are fixed in value to a currency. So, for example, the USDT Tether, it's more known as Tether, and there is also a Boyan's coin. So Tether, for example, is pegged 1-to-1 to $1. So when you want to buy Tether, you give $1 to them, and they'll give you 1 Tether, right? The Tether is the biggest stable coin. About $70 billion of the USDT or Tether coins have been issued, are held by the people. The rules which they have made for the USDT says that you can come in, but you can't encash. Though they have said that we will keep all the dollars which you give to us deposited into banks and invested into, so that there is no danger of the valuation of the assets. It's backed 1-to-1. But you can't from the platform take money back in case you, so if you want to give 10 Tether and you want $10, you can't. But there are many exchanges which do it, because for exchanges, somebody who is buying and somebody who is selling, and if they can make a little bit of a commission on that, maybe even 0.01%, for them, the risk not being there, they would allow the exchange to take place, and you can come in and get out. What a lot of people are using, if you go to Middle East, elsewhere, when they have to transfer money to America or back, they are doing it in the form of USDT now. So if you have to fund the study of children, then you buy the USDT and transfer it, because as I said earlier, transferring through the conventional means cost you 1% or 2%, in some cases 4 to 5%. Here it might cost you 0.1% or even lesser, and therefore they're using it. And the children over there can then convert this into the hard currency. So it's possible. Different ways and different systems exist.
No, but if it is only the Tether is allowed right now. But if it is other currencies, cryptocurrencies, if they cannot be converted with a physical currency, what exactly is the use of that currency?
No, the same thing applies to Bitcoin. I said one class of coins are so Bitcoin also you can buy in, buy out, right? By the way, Bitcoin is also bought because there is inter-cryptocurrency transactions which also take place. I buy Solana using Bitcoin, I buy Tether using Bitcoin, or the other way. So entry currency for because their transaction doesn't take place in physical currency. Their transactions take place in digital currency, and that is why. And that's also at the problem. So some of the exchanges which got bust recently, they were securing by the value of the Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin dropped, then this also dropped.
Any other question?
You haven't answered my second question, Subhash. You said about the why did the RBI have to print more notes when the digital system is taking off?
Sorry, that is not very germane to the today's discussion, but let me answer.
Okay.
But I'll answer that. So the currency expansion. So just give you an idea that we have notes or currency notes of about 33 or 35 lakh crores in our system. And we have deposits which are used for the digital transactions. They are about 4 times of that, somewhere in the range of 140, 150 lakh crores. Together is what we call M2 or broad money in the country. So the broader money is currency plus this. So both of them are growing because the growth of the economy also takes place. So currency has also grown because still in India, lots of transaction takes place with physical currency. And the money, the account money is also growing. What perhaps is at the back of your mind that at the time of demonetization, this was one of the arguments that there is too much of cash in the system, and the cash was measured as a ratio of currency or cash to the GDP. At that time, it was about 11% of the GDP was in the form of cash, so to say. And after demonetization, for some time it came down. It came down to about 8.5%. But then it has started growing, and recently it has crossed about 13%. So there is more money relative to the GDP, but there is also greater, broader money related to GDP. All it takes, as you would know, the money, there is also something called velocity of money. So money doesn't transact in one round only. There are multiple rounds of transactions which take place of money. So what possibly has happened is that in last 1.5 years or so, or 2 years of COVID, the velocity of money is reportedly possibly came down a little bit, and that was made up by the expansion in the physical currency as well. It's not very alarming. I don't think there is any the digital transactions are expanding much faster. There is also some seasonal effect. Whenever the crop seasons, etc., come, you would find more of the cash being in the system. So I don't think there is any need for being extra worried about it. It doesn't indicate, like it did not indicate in 2016, that the black money equals cash. The cash doesn't equal black money. So expansion of cash doesn't mean expansion of black money. In the black money existed without cash. Black money exists even today without that. A little bit extra in relation to GDP doesn't mean that the black money in the system is gone.
Thank you.
I have a question, unless there is somebody else. No, and that is, I'm wondering, how will it be ever possible to regulate crypto coins? They can be banned, but they will go underground. And with the growth of connectivity, internet, and the kind of, there is a virtual space today which is separate from the physical space. The aim of the founders of some of these tech company was to get out of the fold of government and live in a different virtual world. So is it at all realistic to be able to regulate this?
So regulation in terms of banning is impossible. We are living in digital world. Digital world is not even nationally limited. It's global. It exists outside. And therefore, banning is impossible of anything today. You can do a kind of regulation by evolving technology to meet with this kind of technology over there. I'll just give you, for example, there is a lot of tension going around in the tweets which are published about in Twitter or in other social media. The government tries to order, there is a law which allows them to issue direction, and the Twitter is asked to take off that tweet, etc. It's easier than monetary system, but there also Twitter has gone into a High Court of Karnataka, questioning the government's right to ask any tweet to be done. Twitter, or for that matter, any social media today operates using artificial intelligence and so much of technology algorithms to find out what is it. 2 billion people work now on Facebook. They are on Facebook. If you take that as a country, they are larger than any country in the world. That community is spread all over the world. So today it's impossible in the form of this agro-industrial legal system to visualize and do anything. So I don't think this is going to happen. There is one more complication which need to be kept in mind. As I was trying to say earlier, the cryptocurrencies are not currencies alone. The cryptocurrencies capture the services delivered on the platform, the assets created on that, NFTs done, or for that matter, even capital is raised in the form of capital of the cryptocurrencies and all. So they are all rolled into one new kind of asset class, which is beyond currency, which is not only currency. And therefore, any attempt of the central bank or of any country to try to regulate this as a currency is impossible. My sense is that as things evolve, the stable coins I discussed, so either we will need to come up with a global currency or global stable coins. You would remember the IMF has the SDR, but SDR is only a unit of account. It's not a the currency or transaction. Can it be evolved into a digital global currency with everyone's currency's value sort of digitally fitted in there, and it becomes a global currency of transaction? That would be possibly required Another big thing which I think we'll need to figure out is that how do you allow the community of a cryptocurrency or a blockchain platform to do the transactions, like we used to have small clubs, etc. And clubs would have some kind of specific currency. So the moment you go, they'll hand over some tokens to you, and those tokens worked. At the end of that, you can't. So within that platform or within that club, the local or club currency worked. I think we'll have to evolve a system where within the digital platforms like Ether or others, the currency of that platform, Ether or for that matter, works, and for outside world you interface with the global or the national currency. Now that system is something which can, if it can evolve, will probably answer any myopic or any short-term kind of view of banning, or is neither feasible nor likely to succeed, and nor is desirable by. Tiwari ji had some question.
Yeah, I have some question.
Please go ahead.
I also.
बताइए साहब, please go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Subhash ji that sometimes back our finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that though we have not legalized this cryptocurrency, yet we have imposed certain tax on that, on the profit of the use of those cryptocurrencies. Is it true?
Yeah,
how can it be possible?
No, see, these many goods and services and assets get created in the society and the economy. There is no law to cover it, right? Many you don't have to have a law for lawfully doing any business. There is a fundamental right in the given by the Constitution that you can do any business or run any profession, of course, subject to some reasonable restrictions which the state can for some. So cryptocurrencies or the digital businesses in the form of blockchain cryptography technologies are like any other business, like any other digital business. You can do it. This was tested in the case which was filed in Supreme Court against the RBI instructions not to allow the banks to open or do transactions relating to cryptocurrencies. Supreme Court struck out those circulars and said it's perfectly legitimate. So no one has to legitimize this to say. Somebody can illegalize it by bringing a law, right? But as no law has been brought in so far, it is perfectly legal business to do transactions in that. Now that inevitability, that factual situation has been recognized by the government, that if you are sort of making profits by capital gains, by transacting this one, and you are earning profits, but the government is not getting capital gains taxation or that kind of income taxation, the government should get it. So government has also recognized the fact that it's a legitimate business which is being done and people are making profit. Let me tax it. In times to come, you would find the GST being levied on the services which are being created on these platforms, mining and other kind of activities which take place. So as we go along, government may still keep on making these noises of saying that this is illegal, this is not, or we have not banned, we may ban, etc., etc. Reserve Bank recommending that ban it or something. It may, that noise may persist, but in times to come, the path is very clear that the government would also recognize and tax it. And the government would do better if there are certain kind of enabling legal framework is also brought in. For example, if you would have seen the blockchain cryptography platforms work on what is known as smart contracts. These are autonomous contracts. So machine makes contract with another. For example, if you are lending someone 100 Bitcoin at a rate of interest, let us say 5%, that contract is not manually done. It's not drafted by the lawyer or something. That contract takes place on machines and it's automatically executed. That if every month you have to get interest, and at the end of the 6 months, you get your money back. The machines itself execute that contract, and the smart contract operates. We have contract laws, but we don't have smart contract laws. Or the laws to regulate the smart contracts. Maybe we'll need to come up with these kind of legislations in time to come. We have company form of organizations, we have Partnership Act, etc., to legislate or regulate the organizations in which these kind of transactions take place. But in the world of this cryptocurrencies and the Bitcoin cryptography technology, the organization is not a company, as I was saying earlier. These are now described as autonomous organizations, right? And the system today doesn't organize the autonomous organizations. If 10,000 machines are transacting and clearing the transactions for Bitcoins, and it's only the machines which are doing it by using algorithms, etc., what is that organization? What is the Bitcoin as an organization? Who issues it? Who does it? Who regulates it? There is no one. So we perhaps will have to evolve the form of organizations to suit this digital economy in times to come. So that is the way I think it will evolve in times to come. Yes, Mr. Sharma, I think they, and Soni ji also have some question.
हाँ, रामवल्लभ जी, आपका कोई सवाल था?
Sir, thank you, sir. We could understand the concept of the cryptocurrency. Otherwise, I was totally unaware. So, as at this our age, it is advisable for us to invest in the cryptocurrency, because what we have learned, it is not safe. And my suggestion is that the Indian government, they should also go for the cryptocurrency like China, so that the investment is secured.
So I must start with the personal caveat. I have not invested in cryptocurrencies. Right, because of the fact which I described earlier, that I don't understand the value of it. But at the same time, I also did not invest in any of these Paytms, etc., because to me, those appear to be hanging in the air without any real valuation tied with this. But that can be a different way for someone else. A youngster who sees that this is the future and therefore wants to get onto it, want to take a risk on the future. He has perhaps 50, 60 years to live, and to see that dream might sort of realize in that way. So I have no problems with that guy making investment. But in your and my age, perhaps the caution is more advisable rather than doing the adventurous kind of thing. Soni ji.
Soni Saab.
Yes, sir. Sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Sir, I just have some confusion. If somebody converts any other currency into Bitcoin, where the amount goes to only to purchaser or seller through exchange or to somewhere else?
No, so see, conversion can be both ways. So if I want to buy Bitcoin, I then have to pay money to get the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But if I have Bitcoin and want to sell, then I will receive money. So conversion, or if you're meaning that if I want to send money to my son in United States, US dollars, then I can buy Bitcoin in rupees here, send the Bitcoin to America, who then can convert into dollars, right? Or you can send through the banks by buying dollar here or via transferring the. So there are various ways in which the conversions will take place. And depending upon whichever type of the transaction or whichever leg of the transaction you are in, then that would depend whether you would receive money in Bitcoin or you would pay money to get the Bitcoin. Mr. Bissa also has some question. I think
Mr. Saab will probably wind up
So
and
Rajvi has no. All right, I think so. It's about 1 o'clock. Time to wind up. It seems. Right?
Biswa Saab, I think we can thank Subhashji unless there is any other question.
आपका फोन नंबर दे दे या मेल आईडी दे दे तो हम आपसे अलग से बात कर लेंगे वाशी।
I would put it to that group.
Please put yourself on mute. Yeah, please. Biswa Saab. बिस्सा साहब आप बिस्सा साहब आप
म्यूट हैं।
विकलांगों के पेड़ लगाने के लिए संस्था को बुलाया जाता है। ज्यादा क्या लिखूं, आप खुद समझदार हैं, ज्यादा क्या लिखूं।
बैकग्राउंड नॉइजिंग आ रहा है सर बिस्सा साहब के।
बिस्सा साहब, I think Biswa Saab is unfortunately not in a silent room. So let me take the responsibility of thanking Subhashji for a most educative, informative, thought-provoking talk. It has certainly piqued our interest further because the virtual world is evolving. There are developments taking place, and perhaps it is impossible to stop them. He's also given us sane advice that at our age, perhaps it's not worthwhile to invest in Bitcoin. Although my children do, I don't know whether your children do it or not. Perhaps they are investing in the future. So thank you very much, Subhashji. I hope we have some future opportunity again to request you to talk on a relevant topic. And I thank all the participants for their participation. Unfortunately, Arun Kumar ji, our president, was not able to join us today, but normally he is always regularly there and is able to preside over these discussions. Let me also thank all the office bearers who have joined, and especially Geeta Mittal Foundation, Mr. Indrajit Khanna and Manish ji, who provides us all the support. He works in the background and he makes these talks very successful. Thank you very much, Subhashji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Nice to reconnect with you. I hope we continue to do this in the future.
I would love that, and it's coming back to the roots. So it's always such a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you very much.